York City, the city that never sleeps. Nobody's ever going to think I know what I'm talking about. Bus. What's up, fellow humans? Welcome back to another episode of Bits and Pieces. A show where this old lady talks about thoughts and feelings and how someone with a busy brain like mine survives being a human in the world with other human beings. Episode 2. Boy, we've come a long way. Remember when? Yes, I do. Episode 2, what are we going to talk about? Well, surviving the holidays. Because they're coming. So let's get into it. Happy holidays! So here we are, surviving the holidays. Usually what I do is I just read from my notes, which are extensive, and then I have a chat about what I've written. It's the only way I seem to be able to figure out how to talk to everybody about all this stuff. So the holidays being tough, right? They really can be a lot, not only with time management, but gift buying and gift giving, but also trying to decide what to buy, especially if it's someone you don't like or don't know, something you can't afford. Maybe you don't want to afford it. And the holidays can also be painful, filled with depression, holiday depression, guilt, family feuds. It's a tricky one. Perhaps grief, and maybe some dinners you don't want to go to. They may also be difficult because you don't have any family and are usually alone through this time period. And the holidays just feel like a storm brewing. So let's talk about that stuff. So here we are, surviving the holidays. What was the inspo? I mean, fairly simple. The holidays are coming. Have you noticed? They're right there. Nice to see you. So my head, bling, 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 not like it doesn't always spin a million miles a minute, but my insides have started stirring in a holiday way, right? The holiday season. I've been thinking a lot, as usual. And I'm very sensitive, as usual. And I'm also a little grumpy every now and then. So I thought I would talk to you all about what I was going through in case you are going through some of the similar stuff. And I want to talk about how I moved through the holidays and have come from being essentially broken by them and just hurt. To being really in a place of joy most of the time, with a few distant, highs from the sad face girl, but mostly happy. Because with the holidays comes reminders for me, and usually it's about time. Another year's almost over, another high five from the calendar, letting us know that, that just happened. So my head starts, getting out the grading papers, and I start grading my human accomplishments. What did I accomplish? How's that going? Filing them that was waste of time. That was successful. That wasn't good. All that stuff. So the head is spinning. Right. I also think about, do I have to buy gifts? Who do I buy them for? What do I buy? How much do I spend? I don't want to go. I want to go. I want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to cook. I don't want to cook. But I want to cook. Spinning. I also think about, why can't I just be like those really rich folks and just, cut down $400,000 worth of roses and just line my walls with them? Because I can't. I'm not rich. It'd also probably cost $9 to cover each wall. All the walls in my apartment. New York, it's great. It's a lot
Attention,
of roses.
passengers.
Okay. Sometimes I also just think I just want to sleep until January 1st. Just cut to the chase. Miss out on Christmas, miss out on the Thanksgiving, the dinners, and the New Year's Eve and all that shenanigans. Let's just cut straight through to January 1st.
We have now reached our destination.
But I don't really want to do that either. But there's a part of me that does. I just want to go to bed.
We hope you enjoyed the flight.
You think about the people you hope to see.
Nice to see
and the
you.
ones you don't.
What are you doing here?
Family,
Nice to see
friends,
you. Nice to see you.
money,
Nice to see you.
cooking, cleaning, shopping, and time. You just start thinking about all of these things. At least I do. And I think everyone feels stressed with the holidays, no matter the family dynamic, right? No matter if it's like y'all are getting along or if you're estranged or any of the above available options for a family dynamic. I think it's just a stressful period of time. There's a noticeable energy shift in everything and everyone, right?
Everyone just starts speeding up and works themselves into a frenzy because they want to get it right.
This year, we're going to get it right. This year, we're going to get it right.
People doing their best. Hopefully. You're sorting things out. Everyone is rushing.
And waiting.
Same time. They're annoyed. They're short-tempered and short on perspective. There's a lot of pressure with the holidays. So that's what I want to talk about. So let's get into points of discussion. Let's do that. So here we are. Points of discussion. That's French. Things I want to talk about. And these things are for people, hanging with their families and those that aren't. Those that are estranged or have perhaps troubled relationships with la familia. Things I want to talk about. The big nugget that always hits home during these things. Well, holiday depression, the holiday blues, right? I want to talk about not taking things personally. How do I do that? I have some info. I have some behind the scenes sauce. I want to talk about over dramatizing your internal monologue. I'm so good at that. I'm a storyteller. I'm an artist. I pontificate. But I want to talk about over dramatizing your internal monologue. Excuse me. Designing the worst possible outcome before you've even started getting dressed. Right? Like you're in your head like, oh, it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful. I don't want to go. I want to talk about holiday guilt, which is what I was just speaking about. I don't want to go. Do I go or do I stay? Do I go or do I stay? If I go, this is going to happen. If I stay, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about having a plan and holiday pre-production. I love this stuff. Organization. I work in film, TV, and commercials when I'm not doing this. And in front of the camera, I'm behind the camera, figuring stuff out. Pre-production. In the entertainment biz, pre-production is where you sort all the stuff out. It's where you hire everybody. It's where you hire the crew, the technicians, the equipment, the locations. Go to the locations, see where you can plug electricity in, see where you're going to set up lunch, see where you can go to the bathroom, perhaps travel plans for people that are flying in and out, hairdos and makeup, every single thing. You're building a shoot schedule so you know moment by moment what's happening, and that's what happens in pre-production. The essentials. So I'm going to talk about holiday pre-production. Some of those things we're going to speak about is not waiting till the last minute, although I kind of have because it's November something. I want to talk about lists to make and priority planning. I want to talk about managing time and money and emotional budgeting.
Order up.
Yummy. What task or person gets my attention? Who gets my emotional time? What gets my emotional time? And how much does it cost me? How much does it cost me in here, and back here? I want to talk about bulk gifting. Gifts. You don't have to buy a family of 15 gifts. You don't. Is there family? I mean, there's families of 15, of course there is. But I want to talk about consolidating gifts and creating one gift for a bunch of people. Casts a wide net. I'm going to give you some gift ideas and some cool creative stuff to make that are easy on the pocket, fun, really fun, and make a huge impact. Back to film production. Production value is off the charts. And I want to talk about setting boundaries, right, and having a good time. So that's pre-production, creating a plan in the business of self. I also want to talk about dealing with people you don't want to see. What do you do? What do you say? Got some tricks on that. I want to talk about being alone through the holidays, no family. All my friends are with their family, and I'm all alone, right? I want to put that into perspective and deal with the internal monologue where everyone on earth is having the most incredible time. And you're all alone. You're the only one. I want to talk about that, putting that into perspective. Speaking of, it's another topic. I want to put the holidays in perspective in a world view, right? I share a few information nuggets about holidays in the world we live in, not just the United States of America, but umbrella effect. What's happening all the way over on the other side of the planet? So I'm going to talk about labels and holiday rules of engagement. Is that a lot? It's not unusual. I never shut up. So let's get into it. Okay, first up is holiday depression. Not taking things personally. And how do I do that, right? I'm going to read what I wrote. Perhaps you're not invited. Maybe you were uninvited. Or you were invited, but you decided they didn't mean it. Or nobody really wants me there. They were just being polite, etc., etc., etc. Or maybe you're on your way, happily. But you know you might run into some sticky situations because someone that rubs you the wrong way will be there. So I want to talk about taking things personally. This is a tough one, but once you get into the practice of thinking about yourself these ways, it might help, right? Number one, taking things personally comes from your ego, always. Your affiliations, your own insecurities, internal chatter, and the big boy, self-hatred, right? The voice that talks smack, mouths off, and points out all the things you messed up on. The part of you that's insecure, emotionally raw, and takes everything to heart. It's your ego, your affiliations. Get rid of those things. And how do you begin to do that? Well, the way I do it is starting at a chemical level. Again, remembering that you're a machine and that you function off of fuel based from chemicals. Feelings, thoughts become things. So start at a chemical level. The machine, how you feel emotionally, can be motivated by your body needing things you haven't given it. Now, I'm calling this the fundamentals because these sound really simple, but it is. Biochemically, again, the machine, right? The fundamentals. It's hungry for something. The machine is hungry for something. Am I tired? Am I actually hungry? Does my machine need something I'm not giving it? Water. Have you drank any water lately? Sometimes I'll wonder why my head is pounding, and it's because I haven't drank water in hours. And this sounds simple, and a lot of my toolbox is filled with simple check-in lists and remembering I'm in a body built of chemistry and organs and stuff. Try to remember that, first and foremost. And it needs me to care for it, or it starts acting funny. And if my machine is in need of any of these things, I must either give it what it needs or understand that I'm working at a deficit. And not only am I choosing this because of neglect, being a neglectful parent to yourself, so to speak, I must recognize that because of my neglect, I will indeed be particularly sensitive and somewhat out of control. I will be living in a reactionary state that's rogue, right? The mama bear, the one that takes care of big picture. Mama bear needs a break, and she is in fact sleeping. All the while, the kids are ruling the roost, and they are rolling up newspapers and playing with matches. Which means if you haven't taken care of yourself with the fundamentals at a biochemical level, are you hungry?
Are you tired?
Have you had any water? Have you had actual food? Then you're not going to be thinking straight, and you need to remember that. And if you've decided that no, I'm still not going to eat, or I don't have time to do this, or don't have time to do that, you must register that A, you're being neglectful to yourself and your chemical body, and B, you're setting yourself up for some tricky situations, because you're going to be thinking about eating cheeseburgers or veggie burgers or whatever instead of paying attention to what's happening.
Stay a while. Try the cheese.
Feed yourself. If you can't eat a whole meal, just have a snack, but register that. Am I hungry? Am I sensitive because of those things? Right? How do I not take things personally? Start there. Start at a biochemical level. The next thing, remember, not everyone is in the same mood as you. People's delivery and line of questioning is inspired by their state of mind. And the same goes for your reaction, right? Your reaction and following conclusions are made up in your state of mind. You've made up an idea about what someone's intention is and reacted to that idea. It's just that. It's an idea, and it's one of many possible ideas, depending on what story you've sold yourself in the moment, and in turn, what story the other person is also living in, right? Taking things personally is you in your spinning wheel, deciding how other people are feeling, what they mean, and creating a story of disrespect. Respect. Respect is a word people throw around like deserve. You need to be very, very careful with your affiliation to those words and how you communicate those energies outwardly first. Right? So understand that not everybody's in the same mood as you. And they're also dealing with whatever's going on inside of them. So perhaps what they're saying, you might be taking out of context or just making up a story about their intention. Don't have an internal chatter about what you think somebody means. If you don't understand what they mean, ask them. Right? Taking things personally simply means that you've decided the world has all the information needed about you, your state of mind, your history, triggers, sensitivities, and emotional and physical needs at that moment. And even though they know all this, they are selfishly indulging in their own history. They are selfishly acting against you by being them and being in their machine, right? They are actively punishing you. That's what you think, by being exactly where you are, in the same room, in the same situation, but in their own machine, in their own emotional and historical world, right? Remember that when you start taking offense to things and taking things personally. It just means that you've decided the whole world knows how you feel, what you need at that moment. And if they deliver anything outside of the parameters of what you need, then obviously they're being disrespectful. It's not true. They're just in their own machine, dealing with their own stuff, their own history, their own state of mind, etc., etc. And they're doing that right along with you. How dare they? How dare they? Things like, why are they not respecting me? Right? How could they say and do that to me? Right? I can't believe they would do that or say that. They know me. I shouldn't have to explain it to them. I used to think that all the time. I mean, I've told you once 30 years ago, you don't remember? Right? Those kinds of expectations are blatantly ego-based and selfish. I mean, to think the world and those around you are responsible for taking your inventory and your emotional temperature at all times so they can adjust their behavior and say exactly what you need, the way you need it, so you can feel respected in the way you feel you deserve respect at this moment in your life. That's ridiculous. That's insane. And not the good kind, right? It's also what kids do. And you've had your time being a kid, regardless of how being a kid was. Let's say it wasn't that great. It doesn't matter. Now you're grown up, and now it's time to do some looking inwards and be honest about the arguments you are participating in, about who said what and why. Stop spinning in your own thoughts and making up ideas about what people mean and deciding that what they mean is something awful against you. Respect, it's disrespect. You also need to decide whether the time you spend holding grudges, feeling personally attacked, or fighting for other people to understand how you feel is time well spent. And more importantly, if the time spent got you what you were trying to achieve. Right? If you spend all this time trying to argue or figure out what people are thinking and saying, and then going through all these feelings associated to thinking all these things, just ask them. Cut to the meat and potatoes, right? And also, how many times have you tried to make someone understand? This, when I was young, when I was a teenager especially, this was like my mantra. I was going to make you understand. People didn't understand, and I was going to make them. Dang it. You were going to understand. You were going to understand where I was coming from, who I was, and why I was so angry, and why I was so the way I was. Dang it. You're going to understand. I can't even think about how many times I said, you don't understand, or I need you to understand. Well, here it comes, what I wrote. When I was younger, it felt impossible to believe that anyone could or would understand. And I was desperate for someone to understand. Desperate. Or so I thought. Right? What I was really desperate for is someone to explain it to me so I could understand. So I just said it out loud often. And even when people said, I understand, I just didn't believe them. So all that work I'd put into making them understand and hearing those words, finally, someone saying, I understand, it inevitably was fruitless. I was more comfortable in being misunderstood, I found out. Because being understood somehow made it all less interesting, right? If someone said, I understand, suddenly it didn't make it as dramatic. What do you mean you understand? How can you understand, right? If someone else can understand, is it really as dramatic as it feels? Think about that. It just didn't make me feel any better because I hadn't really found a way to understand how to deal with how I was feeling myself, right? I feel like I need to be wearing clogs now with a schooner. Right. So when people said, I understand, it just didn't make me feel any better. I realized, because I hadn't really found a way to understand how to deal with how I was feeling myself. To understand someone is feeling a certain way and understanding what it feels like as that person are two very different things, right? But you can't get wrapped up in that. That's when you start taking things personally. Why don't they understand? They know me. They should know better. Things like that. Each person will feel their own way about the same situation. So the only one that can make sense of an experience is within one's own personal investigation of one's own personal experience. It's not for others to understand you. This is your story. Doesn't that sound lonely? It's not, though, because it's really not. Taking things personally goes back to ego, thinking people should know you, and this idea of respect that you've slathered all over your parts and pieces. There was also something that went through my head, this question of, because how could anyone really understand your experience the way you experience it? How can they? They can't. And a more important question is, why should they? What's the point of that? I mean, there's a point to people understanding your position, right? Let's not play with semantics. But how could anyone really understand your experience the way you experienced it? And a more important question is, why should they? You need to know how and why you feel the way you feel. That's pretty obvious. Other people, here's a clincher. Took a long time for me to swallow this one. Other people might not get it ever. Other people might not get it ever, 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 ever. No matter how much you try to explain it. It just doesn't make sense to them, period. And another discovery, it really doesn't have to, right? Their responsibility is to know themselves. Your responsibility is to know yourself so that you don't take things personally. And then ask yourself this question: how does them not understanding you affect your understanding of yourself? What does that mean? It doesn't. Your understanding doesn't change if someone else doesn't understand you. You understand what you understand, right? There should be no question about you that you cannot ask and resolve within yourself. Again, taking things personally. If somebody says something about you, answer the question. Do you believe them? There's only one vote that counts here, and that's yours. If you know who you are, people can say whatever they want, and you can just watch the show unaffected, right? But if you're confused about yourself and are unsure, then you are open to coercion. You're open to suggestion. Someone says, hey, you're an ass. And you think, you know what? I might be. Then you might get ticked off about it. Yeah. And if there is something that someone else can tell you about yourself that you're not aware of yet, then you're not doing your homework, right? Not that you're the all-knowing, or you should try. And somebody's never going to tell you anything about you, because I'm actually going to make a point to that in a moment. But know yourself, right? And that's the easiest way to not take anything personally. Yeah. Do your homework. Yeah, if there is something that someone else is telling you about yourself that whoa, that's crazy, then you're not doing your homework, and you are not dedicating yourself to mastering your own machine. And you are rogue. And as just mentioned, the flip side of that picture is also to remember that people are in front of us to let us know when we are remiss in grading our own paper. A message that perhaps you've gotten a little bit out of pocket and need to get the tires back on track, right? Take it on the chin and investigate. Maybe they're right. Part of taking things personally, again, goes back to your ego, is thinking that you know everything all the time. I know I said that there should be nothing about yourself that anyone else can tell you, but that also means that you should be open to the understanding that perhaps other people are seeing something that you are unaware of. And in those moments, because you're always observing, ask yourself a question. Maybe, are they right? Maybe they are. Maybe they're right. Right? Can you hear the car outside? I think it's a motorcycle. So this brings me to spinning. Spinning. We're all the same. Just, different wrapping paper. Just different wrapping paper. Spinning. Let's talk about spinning in your head. Spinning, 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 spinning. Do you do that? I do that. I used to be a lot worse. But there are days where my head just won't leave me alone, and I'm spinning. Let's read this little nugget. Have you ever been using your computer and getting what I call the spinning wheel of death? The little spinning wheel where your computer tells you it's in a state of panic. It doesn't want to be touched, right? The hard drive is stuck and overloaded. Spinning, 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 right? It's what your head does. Taking things personally, holiday depression, spinning. Stop spinning. The quickest way to do this for me is breath. Breathe. Feel your skin. Pay attention to your breath coming into your body. Feel that happen. Feel your skin get out of your head. Be here now. And again, remember, everyone in the room is in their own machine. Everyone is in their own machine. Everyone. And some are stuck in the arms of this spinning wheel of death. They're stuck. Ding, ding, ding. Right? Here's a trick. Stop clicking the screen.
Stop clicking the screen, stop hitting the delete and backspace button, right? Stop trying to close out of things and shut windows down, right? Stop trying to click on another one. Fine, if you're busy doing that, let me do something else. I'll go on the internet. No.
Just stop. And just leave it alone for a second. Stop pulling things out of what's being said and trying to make notes on how to catch up on your retorts, right? Just stop. Be an active listener and not an active internal chit-chatter, right? Actively listening, not actively chit-chatting up here. Not like, I can't believe they just said that. What are you kidding me? I can't wait till they stop talking, so then I'm going to tell them exactly what I think about what they just said. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be an active listener and not an active internal chit-chatter. Thinking of the best retort with each sentence and stacking them up like things to do. Right? Track. Like I said, like, oh, I can't believe they just said that. Oh, I'm going to write that one down. That one's going to get, yeah, I'm going to let them know exactly. Oh, wait a minute. What did they just say? I think they just said this. And if they said this, then I'm going to say that. Oh, that'll be perfect. What's it? Crazy person. Crazy person. I've done it. I still do it sometimes. I got to catch myself, right? It's just part of being a person and having a brain, right? That moves around. Being an active listener. Listen and breathe and breathe. Listen and breathe. Act instead of react, right? Combine that breathing thing that sounds so simple, but it works. Just do it. Just do it. Breathe in. And what are we doing? We're actively listening and we're feeling our skin as we take that deep breath, right? We're paying attention to the things that are being unspoken because that's where the truth lies. It's a gift if you can give, it's a gift you can give to someone that can change their life in all the right ways. Listen and breathe. Act instead of react. Pay attention to the things that are unspoken. And this is a really big one. Take this in. Be a person that someone can be hurt in front of without punishment. I'm going to say that again. Be a person that somebody can be hurt in front of out loud without punishment. Try it. You may need it in return someday. And even if you don't, it's how people go crazy. It's how people snap. Because there's never any space, or they feel like there's never any space in the world to just be a person and sometimes be upset out loud, right? Because the coffee shop slogans, right? And the card-carrying crystal lovers. Not that these are bad things, but these like sayings that people have, and this unwillingness to just be around somebody and allow somebody the space to be upset or angry, perhaps loud for a minute. Don't take it personally. Try not to take it personally because it's got nothing to do with you. Usually 99.999999% of the time it has nothing to do with you. And even if what they're talking about has something to do with you and the words that are coming out of their mouth is like, you do this and you do that, the way it's being expressed to you has nothing to do with you. Obviously. Right? They're in the spinning wheel of death. Stop clicking. Stop opening buttons. Stop hitting the delete button over and over again. Stop trying to hit the mute button. Just breathe and actively listen. We take things personally because we're just weaving all these parts of sentences that we've caught when we're not talking to ourselves into a conclusion. And it's not. It's parts, it's pieces, it's bits and pieces. Stay in real time as much as possible and listen. Give people space. Okay? I'm a chatterbox. It's difficult for me, but you must do it. You must. Especially in moments where you're starting to feel like someone's attacking you or someone's saying something against you. Are they? Or is it just you making them into a monster in your own head because you don't think you're so cool, right? Self-hatred. It's there. Yeah, it's a gift you can give to someone that can change their life in all the right ways. People, including yourself, just need to be heard sometimes and just need to be a person without the glasses half full comments or you'll be great or it's going to be okay or any of that sort of stuff. Just silence, really. And paying attention. It's extraordinary what that can do for people. You just get it out. Right? Think of it as a baby having teething and they're just in pain and they're just screeching. Right? You put a little nummy num on their gums and they feel better. And the feelings you get in behaving in this way is beyond words. It's existential. It's out of this world. It's powerful. To decide I'm not going to participate in this energetic spinning. I'm going to force myself to come back to my physiology, the machine I live in, by taking a deep breath, which is forcing your body to activate the act of breathing. Click. Your body is paying attention to something. And if you're breathing in, you can't be, blabbering on. You can't talk if you're inhaling. And if you do, then it's not easy. I don't think you can do it. Try it. It's a powerful feeling to be still and listen, feeling your feet on the ground here and now. How do you not take things personally? Try that in those instances where someone's gone off and said something and then you're just like, boom, I want to play that game. And then you're just on the treadmill, getting nowhere. Burning calories. Not good ones, though. Crazy. Okay. So to begin to stop taking things personally, you first have to remove your ego, right? In conclusion, like after all those little tidbits, right? To begin to stop taking things personally, you first have to remove your ego from the moment. The one that says you deserve this and you deserve that. The one that demands respect, right? You have to absorb the knowing that you are a computer rattling through information at warp speed. Yeah. And unless you know your operating system and what kind of emotional energy you are running on, you will begin to decide that the whole world and everyone in it is against you. I know this because I've done it. And maybe it's not the same for you, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. It doesn't work. It's just exhausting. And it's not true, right? Not everyone in the world and everything is against you. Everybody's got their own thing going on. Sometimes that's more important than where you're at. And that should be okay. Because you're going to need the same thing in return sometimes. At some time, and don't, probably already have. Be honest with yourself, right? Next one. Don't expect people to know, understand, and protect the things about you that took you years to discover. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Don't expect the world to understand and protect the things about you that took you years to figure out, right? There were years where you were just being somebody, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's why. Well, now that you just found this revelation, don't expect everybody in the world to have clicked into that understanding, okay, and respect this. Well, I do this because of that. Why don't you get that? Because why should they? You just figured it out. Congratulations, by the way. Next one, observe your absorption. Be your own best medicine. Give people some space to be themselves while you're dancing around the room being you, right? And stop the internal chatter. Breath. Back to my skin. So, this brings me to over-dramatizing your internal monologue. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, over-dramatizing your internal monologue. Everybody does it, I think, don't they? I mean, I haven't taken a poll. I like polls. But I think it's kind of just a thing we do, right? Remember, we all over-dramatize our thoughts and feelings. If we're alone during the holidays, then we imagine everyone is living in a fairy tale, and we are the only one alone and without. Don't believe the hype. Just don't. Don't believe it. Right? I've got written here, commercials are not real. I know this. I work in commercials. Trust me, it's not real. People very rarely are having the time of their lives the way you see it in commercials, right? Because having the time of your life is respecting the time in your life, right here, right now. That's having the time of your life. There's no other way to do it. Honk, honk. Right? Comparing where you are now and how you feel to an imaginary idea of everyone else in the world having the time of their lives is lunacy. And not like the cool artistic lunacy. Here, it's sheer nonsense. Yeah, absolutely nonsense. These car commercials where the kids are excited about a 9-hour drive into the mountains and camping with a 2-year-old and a 400-pound dog on a snow-capped mountain, no less, sipping a steamy cup of coffee and hugging. It's not a real thing. Think about that. Right? Neither is the picture of everyone wearing the same sweater and having eggnog and singing till dawn. Right? Maybe it is. Where? Let's think. Holland? No, I don't know. But it's not real. It's certainly not what you see in the commercials, right? The kids are bummed, they're annoyed, they're tired, they're hungry, they want a snack, somebody needs a bath, right? All that stuff. Yeah. Instagram is filtered. Remember that, right? And life happens quietly, day by day and moment by moment in real time. Very few people are thrilled about the holidays. And even if they are thrilled about it, I don't know anyone in real life that live like the folks in commercials, because it's advertising, not life. It's advertising, not life. Ever. It's advertising. Right? Don't compare yourself to advertising ever. It's not real. I do it all the time. Boy, do I have stories. But just don't compare yourself to that. Everything you're comparing yourself to is curated. It's not happening in real time. And like I mentioned, life for everyone, rich, poor, anything, happens moment by moment. And usually it's quiet, even if you're spending 20 grand, there's not a crowd around you applauding. Nobody sees it but you and the cashier. That's that. Right? Do you hear that? Someone outside. Okay. And another note is, of course, right? Of course there are families that get along and have wonderful holidays. Of course there are. My Lord, of course there are. And I've enjoyed some of them. I've been to some fun family stuff. Right? But this show isn't for folks living the dream. This show is for those having a tough time with the holidays for a number of reasons, some having nothing to do with family and everything to do with themselves. That's why I'm here, to chat to you. See if I can't make you feel better about some things and stuff. All right. This brings me to depression related to the anxiety of being around family dynamic that can be toxic. My family never changes. I love them, but they never change. If you've ever said that about someone else, then you probably haven't done much changing either. Because you have the same perspective about this person you've always had, right? At least long enough to say they never change. Never is a long time. Just like always. It's a lot. And just take a note that if your perspective hasn't changed, then you haven't changed either. Right? Have you? No. So let's have a little chat about that. I'm going to refill my coffee. See you on the upswing. Here's an example. I know Tommy's going to be there and he's going to mouth off about his birthday last year, and then Mom's going to make the beans I hate. And after dinner, everyone will run from a burning house screaming, "That's it, never again. Next year it's going to be different." Or, "That's it, I'm not coming next year." Has that ever happened to you? Right? Tommy mouthing off Mom and the dang beans. Question. Are you participating in this designed drama repeatedly, the same way? Have you been treating these repetition junkies any differently so as to inspire behavioral changes within them? Or are you the repetition junkie? Are you happy, feeling emotionally superior? I did that for a long time. Still do sometimes when I'm tired. Right? They are so lost, right? You tell themselves they're so lost, unlike me, who has my insides all sorted out. I got it together over here. It's them. Irritating. They never change. Right? Okay, so let's think about this. Let's think about the effect that these people have on you, right? Let's think about that. Remind yourself that you are probably them in someone else's eyes. There must be someone you rub the wrong way for whatever reason, right? But there is someone somewhere that you have acted irrationally with. Yes, there is. Someone somewhere that you have affected in a way that caused discomfort or even pain. Has to be. You're a person. The point is, they're just being them, right? The same way over and over again. And you have watched with the same feelings about them in the same way over and over again. They are repeatedly themselves, and you are repeatedly yourself. Rinse and repeat. Behavioral changes, energy changes are wizardry. They are magic, and you can do it. Changing your behavior and managing the room's energy. It's a trick. It's real stuff, right? Some folks say, I've talked to them about it, right? I've talked to them about it. We've talked about it. It doesn't change. It's the same old thing. Okay, well, maybe they didn't hear you. Or maybe they didn't understand you. Or maybe the energy behind your words was all they understood, right? How did you deliver this conversation? How did you feel about this conversation while you were having this conversation? The unspoken, right? Animals, children, like dogs, know when you are sad. They know when you're mad. They know when you're happy. You don't have to say a word, right? No matter what you say. They communicate through energy because that's the only language they understand. They haven't been taught anything different. You are still that instrument, intuition, right? Sharpen it up and realize you are conducting an emotional orchestra around you, and everyone is playing their own instrument, right? Not taking things personally. Everyone's in their own thing. Right now, as we sit here, there's a siren. I don't know if you can hear it. Somewhere, someone is in trouble. And I'm sitting here with you in a wig, drinking coffee, talking about taking things personally. Perspective. Every time I hear a siren, I think of two things. I think about a cat in the night, the crying out. When I was very young, when I heard that sound coming from a cat, I thought they were crying. I thought they were in pain, right? Later on in life, I realize they're in heat. But that sound, that aching, it reminds me of the sound of a siren. And every single time I hear a siren, I remind myself that someone has picked up a phone and called somebody for help. Right? So some folks say, I got off track. So some folks say, I've talked to them about it. Well, maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe the energy behind the way you were feeling when you said those things are the only things they paid attention to. So really recognize that the unspoken energy that you're delivering words with is the most powerful part of what you're saying. And those, as an inherent animal, our primal instincts, those are the things that we're taking notice of first. It's how you understand when you're in danger, right? Because your primal self will recognize energy. Yeah. Most of our human communication is at a primal level, and it has little to do with what we say and everything to do with how we say it and who we are at that moment of saying it, right? Our energy. So the question is, they never change. Have you changed? Have you changed your reactions or participation in redirecting anything? Right? Because the truth is, Tommy, mouthing off about his birthday, Tommy is suffering. And you are watching, annoyed. That's really what it comes down to. Which brings me to my next little nugget, which is, have you ever been in a situation where you tell someone that they hurt your feelings, right? And then they get angry at you for being so disrespectful to tell them that they hurt your feelings, right? So they get angry at you for hurting their feelings by telling them that they hurt your feelings. Boing, 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 boing. That happens a lot with folks, I think. It has for me. Right? You say something like, I just want to tell you my feelings are hurt. Oh, how dare you? How dare you tell me your feelings are hurt? That really hurts my feelings. I can't believe you would say that about me. I can't believe you would think that about me. Doing, doing, doing. It's very disrespectful that you tell me that I hurt your feelings. I deserve more than that, right? Respect, deserve. But it's frustration level off the charts when you're trying to share that somebody's hurt your feelings and then they take that as an offense and then combat you on the fact that you letting them know that they've done something that's upset you really is disrespectful and hurtful, and somehow that hurt supersedes your expression of hurt in the beginning. It's crazy. So think about yourself in those moments, right? If Tommy's acting up and he's being, angry about something that perhaps you were even involved in, he's in his own world, right? And he is suffering. People don't talk like that and act out like that because they're having a great time. Something's going on. My next point is, if you know what's going to happen, if you've got all the info, then throw a wrench in the action for the love of everything, right? Flip the story and participate in redirecting the behaviors that inevitably lead to the loop button. That one song on repeat. What are you doing to flip the switch? Are you participating in that loop? Are you, doing the backup vocals? Switch it up, participate, and manipulate the energy in your environment and in those around you to be profitable, and do it actively. These are things you can do actively. You can actually sit in your body and go, you know what? I'm going to flip the switch energetically and consciously make that decision and do so, and watch what happens. It's wild. Yeah. Contribute to a different outcome. Contribute, right? When I say manipulate and be profitable, people are going to say, oh, that just sounds really mean, right? What do you want to manipulate me? What do you want to make profit? Yeah. Use your powers for good, not evil, right? Actively participate in manipulating the energy in your environment to be emotionally profitable for all players in a creative, loving way. You be different and see what happens. And don't pull yourself out of the big picture. Don't absorb only other people's stuff, and don't hide in the kitchen until it's over. Play. Right? Next question. Who are you when you're at home? Do you ever change going back, right? Do you enter the house the way you always do? Do you take a deep breath before you knock? I know it's coming, right? It's all a bummer, right? Or do you bring with you a new ingredient to the soup, right? To the energy soup. What are you bringing with you? Are you the same every year? Are you the same old you, doing the same old thing, the same old way? Personal honesty. Look at yourself when you're taking everyone's, grading everyone else's paper. Check in with yourself, right? How can you judge others for being themselves over and over again when you too are in your own spinning wheel, right? The fun fact is you're just comfortable and convinced that your repetition is not an issue, right? You expect other people to switch up the energy so you can have more fun. Honk honk. That's not very fair. It's not their responsibility. See what you can do to switch it up, right? Because what you're saying is, I'm allowed to stay the same for as long as I want because my behavior doesn't annoy me. Certainly not enough to change, right? Your behavior annoys me, so I need you to change. Instead of saying, well, if this person's behavior annoys me, what am I seeing about their behavior that's the annoying part? What story am I telling myself about what I'm looking at? Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're saying I can be the same, but anyone that behaves in a way that annoys me, but doesn't annoy them, right? Obviously their behavior isn't annoying to them. Just be aware of that. Aware of that, right? Those be damned. They need to straighten up and fly right. How dare they bring Groundhog Day into my life with repeating their own behavior over and over again. Judgment be had. Create your own fun. Okay? I think I mentioned this in the last episode. Like, Amazon's not going to deliver you a great day. You have to make it yourself. You have to build out what you got. Another thing to remember, just because people don't tell you they think you're annoying doesn't mean they don't find you annoying. Maybe you're just more expressive about your irritation of others. Doesn't mean they don't feel exactly the same way about you. Whoops. So that's great, right? Knowing all that stuff. How do I do this? How do I change the dynamic? What do I do? Right? What do I do? Well, here's an idea. Ask Tommy about what he's been up to lately, right? So he can participate in a conversation about himself that doesn't remind him of being ignored last time he felt broken by it, right? Don't ignore him because you don't want to hear about his birthday last year. Tommy's stuck, right? Spinning. He might need, this is a big one, he might not even be aware of how much he talks about it because people don't. They're not aware of what's happening on the outside a lot of the time. So he's probably not even aware that every Christmas you're like, oh gosh, Tommy, he forgets, right? And the fact that he does talk about it all the time means he's hurt for some reason and he's looking for somebody to talk him out of it. Somebody tell me something different so I can switch the story, right? Redirect Tommy to a new topic. Do something that overshadows his birthday memory. Build a new memory. Help Tommy build a new memory, right? And something kind. And as far as Mom and the beans, tell your mom you're not a fan of her beans. Just tell her. Just say you love her and you are so excited to see her. You just don't really want to see the beans, right? Pull out a baking dish of something you made and are contributing in lieu of the beans, right? Pull out a new recipe you thought she might like to try with beans. Maybe she's sick to death of making the beans. The stupid beans, right? And if you notice, she doesn't even eat them, but nobody says anything. So she just gets to it, right? She just gets on with the beans. She doesn't even like the beans, but nobody says anything. 20 years she's made the beans. Nobody likes them. And she doesn't even like them, but nobody says a word. Participate. Participate in loving each other. tick tock, you don't have much time. Goosebumps, it runs out. Bringing humor whenever possible and offering something in addition to your distaste, right? You can not like something or something can upset you, but bring something in addition to that. Bring something that contributes to a growth or a movement, out of just the complaining part, right? Participate. Another thing, arrive in a Santa outfit, a princess dress, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But participate in changing the dynamic on purpose. Don't just give up, right? Don't just give up and say, whatever, this is it. I'm resolved. I'm resigned to this being a thing, right? No, participate, actively participate on purpose. Instead of being in your head talking to yourself about how you're going to get through this, don't even talk. Just be on the outside, give and receive, hear, act as a result of, right? Yeah. With the intention to inspire, investigate, and see if you can be the hero and give people permission to be different. You be the one that on the inside saying, listen, everybody, it's fine. We're just going to do this a different way this year, right? Give people permission to be different. Have fun and start a fresh layer in the onion of memories. Let's start building a new way of hanging out, right? A note, don't spend your life having one experience, one reaction, and one way of being for 40 years. You know why? Because then you don't really have 40 years of life experience. You've had one experience for 40 years. Think about that. You didn't have 40 years of life experience doing the same thing for 40 years. Okay. So this brings me to having a plan and holiday pre-production. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about having a plan. Holiday pre-production. As mentioned in the intro, it's really just sorting it out, treating it like a business, treating it like like you're an event manager, right? Okay, so not waiting till the last minute. Lists to make and priority planning. This is pretty simple. It just and these things always sound simple, and sometimes I think I mentioned this before that it's the simplest things that make sense to me sometimes. But lists, I love lists. I love to get what's in here, outside, from behind here, so I can see what's happening, right? Lists, priority planning. What's on the calendar? Get it out of your head onto paper. Who are you shopping for, right? Build a budget and stick to it. If you want to build an entire budget and say we have $30,000 to spend on this, or trucks, or we have $100 to spend, right? We've got to split that $100 between 5 people or 6 people or figure it out. But do yourself a favor and just look at it on the outside and then start from there, right? Get it out of your head. Who are you shopping for? Build a budget and stick to it. Don't just go out looking. Don't just go, okay, you know what? I guess we'll go Christmas shopping today. We'll see what we find. Whammy. I think that's just asking for trouble, because what are you looking for and where? You're just going to randomly go outside and see what happens? You can, but I don't suggest that when you're shopping for folks. I suggest looking online first, right? And searching the stores that are in your neighborhood or things, so you can just get a sense of what's happening, rather than blowing 4 hours on walking from this store to that store and this store and that store and seeing things that you kind of like, but let's look somewhere else first, right? And we'll come back. That old thing, you forget where the heck it was. But you continue, and then 5 hours in, you're like, forget this. I need to go home. I'm starving. I've had enough. I don't even know. And then you see a sweater for $40,000 and you buy it, right? And you get home and you're disappointed. So don't just do that. It's like going shopping at the grocery store when you're hungry. You just buy everything you don't need. And then you get home and you're disappointed and you're still starving. So make some lists. Sit down with a snack, right? A pen and a paper, and have a chat. If you're in a family and you're married and you have kids, talk about it. What's happening? Whose house are we going to this year? Are we taking anything? What are we taking? Right? all that stuff. Make a plan. Just write a list of things to do and put it on the calendar. Maybe it won't work out that way. That's the beauty of plan making, right? You have to get it out of your head first, because sometimes you look at it and go, well, that doesn't make any sense. We need to do this here and that there and this, that, instead of spinning behind your eyes and not being able to see it. It's better for me out of the head so we can see, right? Which brings me to, what do I buy for people? Here we go again. What are we buying for people? How much is enough? And how do I survive the shopping? Maybe you love shopping. But I think there comes a time where you're just like, gosh, waiting in a 3-hour line at Gap just doesn't seem like fun anymore. Or maybe it is. All right, so let's talk about that. What do we buy for people? I love bulk gift giving, right? Consolidating presents. One gift that includes multiple people, and some cool creative gift ideas. Okay, so let's think about this. Perhaps, you've got your brother that's coming with his wife or his significant other, and they've got kids, and, there's like 6 of them. There's a gang of them, right? They're coming in. Perhaps you're seeing a cousin, and your second cousin, and this, that, and the other, and they've got kids, and they've got all these people. Start putting these people into bullet points, right? As far as, grouping. Okay, my brother and his family, right? Mom and dad, right? Folks, just start grouping them. And then you can start by doing these things, which to me, like holidays, buying presents for people. It's always like, what do you think they'll want? What do they want this year? Like, what do you want this year? What should I get you this year? Forget it. Forget all that stuff. Think fun, think novelty, think nonsense, think about giggles, right? Think about being a kid. Yeah. My go-to with stuff is generally gag gifts, because they're fun. They're funny. Yeah. A sweater? No, gag gifts. 1 year I gave a friend of mine a can of unicorn meat. It's not real, but it did have extra sparkles. It cost me like $4, and they laughed for years. We still talk about it, right? Order something silly that has no other use but laughter, curiosity, or joy. That's it. No sweaters, right? No crockpots. No, none of that. Fun, laughter, especially if you feel like you're going to an environment that's going to be sticky, right? Or they never change. That stuff. Switch it up. Gag gifts, another fun thing to do. Inexpensive fun gift to buy is everyone at the party gets a costume. That's it, right? Halloween on Christmas. Let's do it. Everybody gets a costume, a bag costume, right? There's $30 ones that you can buy online. Pre-order, just get it happening. But everybody gets a costume and arrive in yours. Yeah. Show up in your costume, right? It's like $30. Giving this upon arrival and having people put them on for dinner is a way to break the ice. Boy, is it. And bring a little fun into the room, right? Choose costumes that are comfy and silly. Indulge in the childlike nature of the holidays and do as much as you can to laugh, smile, and entertain yourself. And that's entertainment. Costumes, they're fun, silly things. It's tough to get snickety with somebody across the table that you don't really like when they've got like bunny ears, right? It's tough. It's tougher. It helps. And it's fun. It's unexpected, right? If you don't want to kick off the $30 for people, just go buy somewhere, go to the 99-cent store, go somewhere that has silly hats. Hats that silly, funny, silly. Everybody gets a hat. And that's the present, right? That could be like $7 a pop, easy breeze. And it's fun. Not every present has to mean something, right? And when I say mean something, as far as being useful, right? Gotta get something they're gonna use, or a sweater they like. No, get them something fun to bring giggles. Holiday hats, silly hats. Everyone wears it again at dinner. It's the holiday hat. It's the rules. My gift to you is that you must wear this hat, right? Yeah, holiday hats. Bad sweater. Okay, fine. If people want sweaters, then everyone gets exactly the same bad sweater. Everybody, the whole room, right? Remind everybody that you're a team, and choose the silliest one you can find. Yeah, the silliest, most novelty, insane ridiculousness that you can find, and everybody gets one. Team silly, right? Another creative thing is just flower deliveries. It's not that expensive and it makes a big impact, right? Say, oh, I forgot to buy you a present. I'm so sorry. Delivery. It's fun. Flower delivery. Getting a delivery of flowers is so fun. Have them delivered while you're at the dinner or lunch or during the event or whatever. It's a way to make a cinematic gesture with little effort, right? And it doesn't have to be flowers. You can have a cake delivered. Have a whole box of donuts delivered, right? Anything delivered feels special. Set up a messenger to deliver your costumes. Be creative. Be creative, be creative, be creative, be creative. Very rarely are people sitting down at coffee and thinking, gosh, you know, that navy blue ribbed sweater that I got in Christmas 1987, that really hit home. That was a memorable... No, they're not. They're just not. Silly hats? Oh, yeah, baby. As mentioned, consolidating a whole family into one gift, a family present. Not nitpicking or, you know, pulling out this, that, and the other, and everybody gets a little something here and that and the other. You can do that, but there's no need to buy a gift for every person. Anytime you can consolidate gifts, do so. And one of those ideas is just baskets, right? Where do you get them? Grocery store, 99-cent store. This is the go-to for fun stuff. And don't kid yourself. The 99-cent store is no joke. That place has some cool, silly stuff that is inexpensive, really creative, and they have a mishmash of a bunch of haberdashery, you know, who knows what's there kind of stuff. And you can get everything in one-stop shop, right? So baskets, you build a basket for the family, right? And basket ideas include perhaps you buy a box of cookies and then you buy some cellophane, or you buy some different colored wrapping paper and then put 2 cookies in a thing, put 2 candies in a little satchel, right? That goes in the basket. Buy something novelty, something just for fun, like a silly hat or some kids' toys. If there's kids, just, you know, buy one of those little creative kid toys, something that they can play with. Face painting kit, right? Something silly and fun that activates their environment, that's a participatory thing where they're doing something, and it's cheap, right? Throw in some candles, right? For mom and dad, like create a little like bath time basket, date night. What? Date night. Right? Some sponges in there, colorful sponges, some soaps, some bath time fun, a bath ball, right? All these things you can get from a 99-cent store for so inexpensive, so cheap, and they're fun and they're colorful. And you can pull from all of them and you can do it a bunch, right? Some candles, rinse and repeat. And you can get the basket, the cellophane, the ribbon, the everything right there in one place. And you can do it for a bunch of folks. So you can build 4 different baskets. Perhaps they're all different for different people that you're going to see, but it's something that you'll have on hand that you can just make, have a fun day creating all these baskets, especially if you're with family and you have kids. Everybody can participate. You throw a card on there, from us to you. Happy holidays. Done. Line them up. Tuesday, we're going to Tommy's house. Get Tommy's basket. Boom. So good. Right? Shop for all the folks in one place. You can get everything there at 99-cent store or something fun like that. Michael's is another fun one. Any craft store. But the 99-cent store is fun because they have miscellaneous things like candy and colorful hats or silly socks. Right? Be inventive. Again, it doesn't have to be practical. It's supposed to be fun. Something that they wouldn't get themselves because it's silly, right? Candy, cookies, soaps. It's easy. And it's really all about what you choose, right? Marketing, advertising. 99-cent stores, when used correctly, are genius for en masse gift prep and keeping the budget low, with the wow factor being off the charts, kid. Choose non-perishable items or perishables, depending, right? But they're also handy because, as I mentioned, you can prep all the baskets beforehand and just grab and go for each holiday party. And it's fun. Another thing about this is any gift like this where you make something, even if you're just pulling things that other people have made, you're creating this basket. It feels special, right? And it feels personal. And it's not that big of a deal, but it is, in fact, personal. No matter how much it costs, right? And sure, you can spend more money or be more specific for folks that you feel inclined to do so with. But building a basket of useful and fun things is a wonderful way for people to think of you kindly when they indulge in all these gifts, right? One by one. When they're wearing their silly hat or they see the candle, they'll think of you and say, oh, look what they gave me. Isn't that nice? So it's a good, happy reminder, building new memories, new layers, onion. They'll think of you kindly. And it's also creative, festive. It's something the whole family can do. And it's inexpensive. There you go. Work with your environment and those that will be in it, right? You know what to expect, so prepare accordingly. And try to flip the switch. Try to participate in actively activating new energy, right? And have fun with it. It's not that serious. Even when it's serious, you can make it fun. This brings me to my next situation, which is dealing with people you don't want to see. Whoops. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Let the dog is rolling right.
Honey, your friends are here.
Sandra, what are you doing here?
Dealing with people you don't want to see. I'm going to see people I don't like. What do I say? What do I do? Right? Well, I feel like this is kind of just a thing in life, right? Sometimes you don't like people for whatever reason. So how do you deal with that, especially on the holidays and not stirring up trouble? Well, the first thing for me is Mama Bear steps in, which when I refer to Mama Bear, right, it could be Papa Bear, it could be any kind of bear, it might not be a bear. But whatever part of you that has some sense about them and can step outside of yourself emotionally and just kind of take inventory of what happens has to come in, right? The logical observation part of you that takes care of yourself and tells yourself the truth, but not in a mean, not that self-hatred voice. The more reasonable voice that's sometimes way, way back there. So Mama Bear steps in, have an honest conversation about the relationship dynamic. You don't like this person? Well, let's have a chat about it with yourself, right? Why don't I like this person? And what is your part in the state of this relationship? What have you done to contribute to the tension? Even if someone says something to flip a switch and your reaction to that feels justified, right? What are you participating in? What does that decision of justification award you? So someone says something that upsets you, you're like, that's exactly, right? Ding, wait a minute. What did you just say to me? Right? And even if you feel justified in being hurt, what does that get you? Going, yeah, I'm justified. What prize do you get from that? Right? And where does it come from? Where does this justification, where does this decision come from, right? How are you contaminating the relationship by layering? No, that's not what it says. But yeah, how are you contaminating the relationship? Are you contaminating or are you contributing to the movement, right? Are you contaminating the relationship by layering cruelty on top of cruelty? Excuse me, rude, right? Or are you contributing to the relationship's growth, understanding, and communication? Brutally honest, caring communication. Communication comes before the hurt has eaten away at the fabric of your relationship and turned to resentment, misunderstanding, and at times hatred. Bing bong, boop. What are all those layers, right, in this relationship with this person that you don't particularly like? Do you even remember how it started? And does it matter anymore? Which brings me to holding grudges. Boy, there's a part of me that can hold a grudge, or used to hold grudges. I was keeping score, dang it. Yeah. So here's what I have written. Holding grudges is a useless activity. Yeah. Things change. People change no matter what anyone says to you. And people say, people don't change. Yeah, they do. Either you're not invited to the change, you're not around the change, or whatever. But they do. All the time. All the time. So when we're hurt by someone's actions or something they've said, it's because there is a part of us that believes what we think they are saying is in fact true. And sometimes it's exactly what we need to listen to, right? The truth. Truth is subjective. We can talk about that another time, but sometimes you need to hear the real deal from somebody else, right? People are there to remind us what we look like when we behave the same way. That was a huge revelation for me. I was like, oh my gosh. When I got out of my ego and started looking at folks as an observation, saying, wow, they're really upset, they're really angry, and then saying to myself, oh, that's what I look like. That's what I look like when I'm them. Because we're all the same. There's no us and them. Okay? No us or them. Yeah, drive that idea right out of your noggin. So sometimes what people are saying, if it's hurting our feelings, it might be because it's something that we agree with, right? It's exactly what we need to listen to. If you're choosing to hold someone guilty of a behavior and you yourself have ever behaved in the same way, then you need to take this into consideration when you are handing out your emotional grades to others. If you're standing in front of someone and someone's acting up, you're like, look at them, and saying, look at them. They're so upset. They've lost control. Have you ever been so upset and lost control? Ever? Yeah, you have. Because even if you ask your mother if you can, but just go back in your memory, right? At one point there, you were freaking out because you couldn't sit up. You're losing your because you couldn't sit up even yet, right? Just take your own personal inventory before you start grading other people's papers. Try to do that. And this is where you need to live, in a place of self-observation, forensic honesty, right? Investigation and information. You can be the person that takes everything personally. You can be that sensitive part of yourself that's just broken by everything. You can be the logical self. You can be all these folks. But you also have to remember to tap in as the observer and just have an honest conversation about what you're doing. Take responsibility, right? This is where you need to live, in a place of self-observation. Look at yourself before you start spitting out and vomiting out your opinions about how other people should be behaving, and gosh darn it, they should have it together right now. Maybe it can't. Have you ever lost it? If you're here, you probably have, right? Yeah. If you want to be truly responsible for your participation in life in every moment, then you are in the business of self and filing accordingly. Rid yourself of ego and who you think you are, want to be, or hope to be. Who are you? Honestly, being brutally honest with yourself about yourself. Nobody else can hear it. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Nobody else can hear it, so get to bringing the truth to the forefront and act on it. Face yourself in every moment when you are dealing with others. Yourself. Face yourself. Give people space to be who you have been in the world and take notes. Don't hold grudges. Useless. Wasted time. And if you're holding grudges, you're really not looking inwards and asking yourself if you've ever been this way with anyone, ever. All right. This brings me to keeping score. Keeping score. Don't do it. Let's talk about keeping score. Don't do it. That's the first thing I want to say. Have you ever said, I just do that because they do this to me? Or I just say that because they said this to me? Right. Goes back to don't take things personally. Even if it's being directed towards you specifically, you love them, you just don't like their behavior, right? And they probably feel the same way about you sometimes. So keeping score is wasted paper. You're even. Just call it even, right? And all of us are odd, aka guilty. We've all done something to somebody sometime. So suck it up. Suck it up. I don't like it when people say that, but sometimes it's true, right? So here's what I've written. Tough love. If you're keeping score, what's yours? What's your score? And not just in the now. What's been your contribution to the entire history of this relationship from beginning to end? Because that's how you keep score. That's the only way to keep score, right? Because you're holding others to that scorebook. You're grading them on the entire history of your relationship. Everything said and done up until this moment, right? Up until now, from your side of the fence. And how is your yard looking? Like, what's your scoreboard say? Have you been a neglectful parent to yourself in times and said and done things that perhaps you could have said and done a little differently? Maybe, right? If your reaction to something hurtful is to hurt back, either by taking their hurt personally, which is the most aggravating thing, and absorbing it as your own, or being cruel, outwardly, retaliating, right? Then you're exactly the same. You're one and the same and participating in the cycle of cruelty. Right? When you think somebody is being cruel to you, you don't respond to cruelty with cruelty. Or you can. But then Mama comes in and goes, just so you know, you're being a and then be that person if you need to be, right? Practice breathing before speaking and acting, not reacting. Most people have no idea, myself included, how you just respond. You're just boom. You're just on, you're a machine. You're doing what's programmed and you do it at warp speed. And sometimes you start doing something and in the back of your head, you're like, don't do that. Don't do that. Do that. Hi. It's me. Don't say that. Say that. Say that. Practice breathing before speaking and acting, not reacting. If you can recognize that someone is angry, hurt, or being an ass, in your opinion, don't entertain that energy. Don't take the bait, right? And use them as an excuse to get out a tantrum so you can feel better, perhaps about an earlier incident that pissed you off at the grocery store, right? But you kept your mouth shut. Don't use someone else's behavior as a scapegoat to vomit out some of yours. Their feelings don't belong to you, and your feelings about whatever happened at the grocery store earlier don't belong to them. Don't muddy the waters, right? And don't use someone else's aggression as like, hey, this is a good chance to be angry. Right? Even if you're not angry at them per se, but you're like, this gives me an excuse to bite back because I'm ticked off about whatever happened earlier or yesterday or last year. Yeah. Stop the spinning. Be part of a solution, not part of the problem, and then feel self-righteous about your own personal growth. Well, if they hadn't said that, if they hadn't poked the bear, they would have gotten it. Really? Really? If you think someone is being cruel to you, Beep, beep, beep. It's because they're hurting for some reason and they haven't sorted it out behind their eyes yet. Spinning, right? And that frustration with themselves has turned to hurt. And they haven't dealt with that hurt yet. So that hurt is now hurt and has moved into anger, right? It's grown teeth. It's packing a bag and it's moving down to anger street. Yeah. Remember, other people are just people too. That's it. You are not the only person being a person out loud. It's like shocking things to me when I really absorbed things like that. Like, I'm not the only person being a person in the world. Pretty much everybody's doing that, right? And aside from sociopaths, most people don't ever want to hurt someone's feelings. People as animals want to be liked. We want acceptance and we want love. Nobody ever really wants to hurt anyone else's feelings. They're simply being held hostage by their own emotions and their own thoughts, right? And the relentless pursuit to avoid feeling uncomfortable and rejected. Two of the biggest fears human beings as animals have: being rejected. Yeah. Fight that frantic need to justify your place in the world. Just be there, right? They're stuck in the arms of their own machine, and it's gone rogue, and they are reacting out of panic instead of observation. Yeah, when people are acting like that, it's because they're panicked. I know that because, well, I mean, that's what I think, because that's where I was coming from. Panic instead of observation. Even sociopaths will say, I didn't want to hurt anyone. I know it's wrong, but my thoughts about hurting someone were stronger. I couldn't stop myself. I needed to do it. It's like watching myself do something I would never do. Have you ever had that feeling where you've done something and you're like, that's not me. I would never do that, but you did. So who's running the ship? Your machine is very, very, very powerful. It's very powerful. And it does things sometimes with what I used to say, without my consent, right? But it is with your consent, but it's happening. Like your machine, you're hungry. Your machine in your head and your emotions and that entire library of information in your computer's hard drive is working at a speed that is exponential. So if you're not connected to yourself and not paying attention to those movements, you can go rogue, right? And it's very, very, very powerful. And all of a sudden you'll find yourself doing things and later say, why did I do that? I didn't even want to do it. Even in the moment you'll be doing something and you'll be telling yourself, don't do that in the background. That's not nice in the background. Stop it. But you can't. There's something about what's happening that you've lost control over your metabolic system and you run away with yourself. Here's the thought that I wrote. Know that you're a guest in here. You're a guest, right? And there's a rule book in the bedside table. If you don't read the manual, you won't have a very comfy stay. You'll get a room with no view, no room service, no maid service, no bathtub, no kitchen, and no bed. It also costs a fortune to stay there. A cost marked by the ticking clock hanging on every wall. Right? That's just a thought. Know that you are a guest in this machine, and there's a rule book in the bedside table. If you don't know how you work, you're not going to be very happy. You're not going to have a comfortable stay in the skin you're in. Get to know it. Start reading and start writing the story of you. Tick tock, right? It's marked by the clock on the wall. What's valuable? What's working? What's important? What makes sense in the big picture? Right? The next thing I've written is you really only need to breathe in and let your body react instinctively without observation in times of physical danger. And even then you're observing yourself, right? Or if you're dancing. You are instinct driven by your body, and it just moves. It just does it. It breathes without you having to check in and say, are you breathing? Is your heart still beating? Are you turning sugars into, right? You don't have to check in with that. It's happening and you're in it. So you better pay attention, right? If your life is in danger, you will indeed go into a reactionary state built on primal survival, right? If you're in a situation where your life is threatened, then you'll go into this state of just reaction, right? And it'll be a primal situation. But every other situation in your life that's not life-threatening, right, is a conversation. That's it. It's a conversation with yourself, with your environment, with your energy, with the human beings and creatures in front of you. Even moments that are life-threatening, I've talked my way out of some insane situations. Yeah. Conversation. Taking a breath and just a sharing of information, right? The point is, if someone says something or does something and it upsets you, unless it's life-threatening, you need to breathe and then speak, not react from a place of defense, because it doesn't get you anything. Next thing I want to talk about is how powerful silence is. Silence is so powerful. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Silence. Let's get into it, right? Silence and actively watching and listening to someone instead of talking to yourself about what you see and what you're going to say. This act can stop everything and bring the person back into the here and the now, because there's no noise to drown out their behavior. Drown, right? Silence. If somebody's in a situation where obviously they're angry or something's happening and the level of energy is just like raised up a bunch, instead of just taking the bait and trying to defend what's happening or explain a situation to somebody that's obviously in the spinning wheel of death, silence. Pause on your energy. Just observe what's happening in front of you, right? Because all of a sudden silence, there's nothing to distract them, right? Like the music outside, there's nothing to distract that person from hearing themselves echoing in the world around them. If you do this and there's a break in their behavior, which usually comes from confusion, because what they're used to is not happening and the world is quiet. So all they have to see and hear is themselves, right? There usually is, most times I've ever done this and put this into practice, where I've consciously, on purpose, stopped myself, taken a breath, and just been silent and really just watched the other person's behavior. Of course, they register that you're watching them, and nobody really likes to be watched, which is the funniest thing, right? Especially when they're acting up. And especially if there's no reaction, they're just simply being watched. It's very confronting, and people will generally stop what's happening to try to reevaluate what the environment that just really changed, right? So it'll stop them. And when they do stop, because they usually do, just tell them that you love them. Just say, I love you, right? And I'm sorry to see that you're so upset, or I'm sorry to see it hurts me. Not even that you're sorry, but say, it hurts me to see you hurt, right? Don't try to justify what they're saying or any of that sort of stuff. It's a complete deviation from what's happening. You are actively listening and watching them feel, right? And if you do do this and there is a break in their behavior, just reach out and hug them and just have that exchange with them and saying, you know, it hurts me to see you in pain, right? Because it should, right? And give them a hug. Don't use this as an excuse to vent some of your own frustration about something. Maybe that has nothing to do with them. It's just you're angry about something else and you need a way to get that out. And you're going to use their energy as a one-way ticket into being able to be defensive, right? The next thing I write is sometimes we don't know how to stop ourselves. And if we do, we don't know how to break the ice and move forward, right? We are paralyzed. Paralyzed. The arguing is stopped. Now what do I do? Right? How do I apologize? How do I squash this? That's tricky. It's really tricky. And that's happened to me. And I've also put into practice the silence and visibly watched people like a melting candle come to and go, what's happening? And then see them because I'm just watching them. I'm not thinking about what's happening. I'm just observing the animal in front of me having feelings. And I know what feelings look like because you do, right? And I've watched people from going from rage into confusion, into feeling like a little kid that feels guilty and silly about what they've just done, but don't know how to speak. They can't open their mouths now because everything just changed, and they really didn't even want to behave the way they were behaving. They didn't want to say the things they said. And now that it's stopped, they don't know how to say, I'm sorry, right? Because everything's so confusing. It's very confusing on the inside. Right? Don't take people's silence sometimes when they stop that as them not caring about what's happening. It's really just confusion. It's shock. You've sent them into shock because what they're used to, which is an argument back from you, is not happening. And that's confusing. And your computer will start spinning saying, bing, brrr, wait a minute, this isn't usual. What's this configuration? What are we supposed to do in this situation? Right? It's going to go back to the reference bank and see if it's ever experienced this before in this way. And if it hasn't, it's going to stop. And it's going to go into hyper-focus to see what's happening to readjust its internal situation. And you're the one that can motivate this pause that gives both yourself and that person to get back into the skin you're in. Right? Yeah. Because sometimes we don't know how to stop ourselves. Sometimes we do need the person that's with us to just not take offense to how out of sync we are, and just be with us in the moment and give us permission to kind of get through it for a second and get back into the skin, right? Participate in that, in doing that for others, because you're going to need it from other people. It goes back to me saying, be someone that somebody else can be in pain in front of, like in pain or angry or upset, and you don't absorb that as your own or take offense to their energy or their tone or their level of voice or whatever. Just be with them in that moment and let them be upset just for a second. You know, it's such a gift to give to people. And we need to do that more, because we're always just being bashed over the head with this idea that everybody needs to be happy all the time. You know, it's tough. It's difficult. You can be, but it's tough. It's really tough, right? So if someone's being mean to you, obviously they're hurt for whatever reason. And what they're saying is not as important as how they're saying it and what you're seeing them feeling behind what they're saying. And if it's pain, and anger comes from pain, stop. Don't click the buttons. Just give it a minute, reset, give them a hug, and let them know that you see them in pain and it upsets you to see them in pain, right? Especially if someone comes to out of a tantrum, and now that they're conscious, they feel embarrassed, right? And instead of allowing their embarrassment to then turn back into being angry to punish you for shaming them, right? Because that's usually what it ends up being. Help them redirect. Redirection. It's such a good tool. If you're not living in your ego and your own spinning thoughts, and you consciously make a decision to behave in a different way and act to redirect something and participate in that willingly and wantingly and excited about, well, let's see what happens if I do this. Magic happens. Don't ignore what's been said, right? Let them know you hear them. Ask them if they do, in fact, want to talk about it, right? Or if maybe getting a piece of cake sounds better. Break the ice. Give them permission to move beyond it. Give a sign that it didn't matter to you, right? That it's okay. You can get upset. Right? Part of my job as a producer on set when I'm working is dealing with energies and artistic energies and creative people, and they're very there are a lot of idiosyncrasies, myself included. So there's a lot of personalities and energies I have to, mother. And one of the things about being a producer is that people can come to me and vent, right? Because it happens. Let people be people. You're an emotional thing, right? You're going to feel stuff. Just let each other feel stuff without having to participate in either taking it personally or having commentary on it. Be the best medicine, right? Don't ignore what's been said. Let them know you hear them. Or ask them if they want some cake. Redirect. Push the energy towards peace, a place to breathe and redirect. Remember, just like you have emotional habits that are difficult for you to break, even though you know they don't benefit you, so do those that annoy you. Everyone has parts of themselves that are rogue. Recognize the rogue in others and give them the right of way every now and then. Just let them be. Right? Ask yourself if you have ever felt this way about anything in your life. Can you find a way to see yourself in them at all? And try to understand, right? And if you can't understand, can you at least recognize that the person is not who they probably want to be right now, right? You can at least say that. You can logically say, if this person saw themselves doing this, they probably wouldn't want to be behaving that way. Even if they have a point, they would probably want to prove their point or express their point in a different way if they did in fact see themselves. Try to remember that, right? And you don't have to agree with someone to hear them. Very simple. You don't have to agree with everybody, because a lot of people won't agree with you about stuff, even though you believe in it wholeheartedly, that it, it's a passion. Some folks just won't be on the same docket. Don't get it. So here's some notes in closing for this. Spend time paying attention to what isn't being said. The energy behind, is it sadness? Is it really just being upset? Is it hurt feelings? What is it, right? You can hear what they're saying and then also observe the feelings behind that. That's why we love movies so much, because we can be watching a scene of people talking. And even though we hear exactly what they say, these actors have internal dialogue that says something completely different. And it's wonderful. We get to see humans being humans. Yeah. Pay attention to what isn't being said. Don't you be distracted by the noise. Don't be distracted by the frenzy of a machine gone rogue in the room with you. Don't absorb that energy, right? You have your own story. Don't absorb their energy and then adopt that as yours and start defending your place in the world for your energy. We're all in this together. Don't be distracted by the noise. Don't join in. Pause, breathe, right? And also don't hide. Don't run away, and say, oh, I'm just going to just ignore that. No, redirect, right? Participate. And if none of this works, play with the kids. Are the kids there? Play with the kids. Forget about how old you are. Forget about all the things you don't want to talk about and play with the kids. Ignore the adults and hang out with the tiny humans who have short attention spans and play. Yeah. Time, energy, payoff. Is it worth it? Redirect. A few little, emotional snacks. All right. So this is going to bring me to guilt. I still don't want to go, right? And time left on the clock. Let's talk about that. Guilt. I still don't want to go. Time left on the clock. Right. Let's talk about it. I don't want to go. All these things. Well, first question is why? Why don't you want to go? Why don't you want to go? Maybe you just want to go to bed. That's depression. Hiding. I just want to hide. Maybe there's that one person you don't want to see. We talked about that, right? Or maybe you're just being dramatic and need to constantly test the world's love for you, and nothing other than sending a horse and carriage and presenting you with the key to the city would prove to you that anyone really wants you to come, right? And even if they did that, you'd probably put up a fight. Over dramatizing. I would do that. People would invite me and I just convince myself they were just being nice. They didn't really want me to go, right? They don't really want you there. Psh, annoying. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they were just being polite. But the point is, I don't want to go. I still don't want to go. Okay, well, why don't you want to go? Have a conversation with yourself about that and just, make a decision. If you just want to go to bed because you want to go to bed and you're tired and it doesn't really matter, go to bed. But if you don't want to go because there's somebody there that you don't want to see, try to resolve it. Try to do something new. Go on an adventure with yourself, right? But decide. Just decide. And here's a nugget. You don't have to go. You don't have to do anything. And if you don't go, then feeling guilty is useless and self-indulgent, right? So don't do it. Redirect. But if you do go, participate. Decide you're going to be part of the fun and not run off into the kitchen and hide and feel sorry for yourself because Tommy's off and running about his birthday. Commit to being part of the fun. Right? Decide. Visualize the story. Visualization is a big deal. If you don't go, are you just going to sit at home and wonder what they're doing? What's everybody doing over there? Do they miss me? Why isn't anyone calling and demanding for me to come over? They already asked you. You said no 20 times. Right? But visualize the story. If you're sitting there at home thinking about what's happening over there, just go. Just go. You can always leave. You can always make another decision. That's the great thing about deciding stuff. You don't just get one decision in life. You get a lot. Choose them. Next thing, do the math. This is something I recently being like 15 years ago, but do the math. How many more Christmases do you have left? Do the math with these people, right? The ones you don't like. Or let's just pick parents, right? If your parents are 80 years old, let's just use this as an example. And you expect them to live, let's say, another 5 years, right? Comfortably, happily, right? As an example. And you see them on holidays or maybe once or one or two times a year, right? If you do the math, you'll see them 10 more times before they die. Maybe. If they live another 5 years, right? Because you only see them, once or twice a year. So let's say twice a year, right? Twice a year, 5 years. It's only 10 more times before they're gone. It's over. Think about that. How often do you see the people in your life? How often? How much time do you really spend with them, in their company each year, right? Times that by how long is probable for a human to live and do the math. It sounds impersonal. It sounds mean. How could you look at life like that? Because that's the truth, right? How long have we got? Not a long time. 85 years maybe, being comfortable and not needing help, right? So times that by how long is probable for a human to live and do the math. If you have a brother, a sister, a family member, or a friend, someone you love, but also someone you've had a falling out with, right? And have just left it alone. Telling yourself you'll sort it out later, right? Telling yourself, there's time. We'll deal with that another time, right? We have time, right? Do you? Do you have time? Do the math. If you only see them at Christmas once a year, if you're 40 and they're 40, and you go by the scale above, right? You still only see them 45 more times until they die. Do the math. Break it down even further, which is what I do. I just break it down exponentially. Just keep going, right? If you see these people during the holidays, 2 times a year, and let's say you spend 8 to 10 hours a day with them before you head home to the hotel or, You even go to bed in the home that they live in, right? So you just go upstairs and go to sleep. Let's say you do that for 3 days. So you spend 8 to 10 hours a day for 3 days, right? So that's 30 hours twice a year, which is 60 hours. That's what you've got, 60 hours, right? So backtracking. So if your parents have 5 more years before they die, as an example, you don't have 5 more years with them, right? We got another 5 years. No, you don't. You have 300 hours. And 300 hours equals 12 and a half days. Doing. Do the math, right? You don't have 5 more years. You have 12 and a half days before they die, because you only see them once or twice a year, and you only see them for 8 or 10 hours a day for those 3 days that you're hanging out. You go visit, then you come home, right? 12 and a half days. Yeah, that's what you got. So how many of those days are you going to waste by holding grudges or, not progressing into a different relationship dynamic? What's it worth to you? Do you care? Don't you care? You care. We all care. Regret. Don't do it. It's the worst. Regret is the worst. It's the worst of the worst. For me. I'm not a doctor. But think about that. Do the math of these people that you're holding grudges against, whether they're family members or friends. And if there's somebody that's important to you that you love, right? Besides their behavior, they do things that you don't particularly enjoy. And so you've spent a long time avoiding these folks because it's just a lot for you to deal with. Deal with it. Do the math, right? If you're only going to see them for another 12 and a half days until they die, how many days are you going to waste thinking about what happened 10 years ago? Get on with it. Get on with it in the here and the now. Redirect. Participate in actively changing the dynamic. And a note to that is sometimes it just doesn't work, right? Sometimes the person that you're trying to have a relationship with is just simply not interested in having a relationship with you for whatever reason. My father, for example, we don't have a relationship, right? I send him a WhatsApp once a year saying, "Happy birthday, old man." He says, "Thanks." That's it. And I have to remind myself to do that. We don't have a relationship like that. It used to break me open and be hurt. He's just a person. I got to allow him to be him in the world and me in the world, and have a bigger, broader perspective of our relationship as people in the world, right? And not just a father and a daughter and what have you, and all the things that happened and all that stuff. 12 and a half days. Do the math. Are the resentments worth the cost of time lost enjoying that person, right? Loving and being loved by that person. Or if you don't foresee that you enjoy that person in the context of what we think is enjoying somebody else, or loving that person in the context that we tell ourselves what love is there anything you can understand about the relationship? Is there anything more you can understand about how you are by investigating who they are before they go? Right? The regret of, gee, I wonder if I'm like this person. Ask them, talk to them, right? Or not. But no, 12 and a half days. See you later, alligator. Next one. Regret. Don't do it. Are the resentments worth the cost of the time? Do the math. Unless these people live with you, and even if they do live with you and you're around them all day and all night, and you're still annoyed by them or whatever, do the math. Is it worth it? Not just to their lives, but yours. How much life are you throwing away? Not throwing away, but how much life are you dedicating to thinking about yesterday, right? And trying to figure out a way to make your point, instead of just saying, okay, maybe there's a new point to be had. Why not? Right? Is it worth it? Here's something to remember. It ends. It ends. There is a checkout date, and it comes. It's coming. It comes for every single living creature, plant, otherwise, beginning, middle, and end, beginning, middle, and regenerative. It's coming, right? Someone else has booked the room. Yeah. Right? You can't think your way out of it. No, you can't. And regret, like I've been talking about, is something you should avoid as much as possible. Regret feels much worse than hurt feelings. At least that's what I think, right? Hurt feelings can heal. They can, because you can figure them out and work through it and all that sort of stuff, because you can get a better perspective. Regret's not that. Regret is just that. Whoops. There's no rewind button. It's a period at the end of a sentence. There is no pause button. There is no do-overs. There is only learning. That's it. Bit of a tough nut. But I think it's all true, really. Do the math. That freaked me out when I started doing that. Gives me goosebumps. Because that's what life is. It's math. It's tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. It doesn't feel like it because you're in your body and you're having coffee and you're having brunch and you love this show. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. What are you doing? What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? What are you holding grudges about? Is it worth it? In big picture. Big picture. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Try to just love those people around you and just see yourself as much as you can in the world around you and in those people around you, because we're all the same. We're all the same. It doesn't matter what skin color you have. It doesn't matter what hair you have. We all have the same insides: meat, bone, blood, a circulatory system, a brain, biochemistry, same thing, same stuff. Buttons, families, no matter how you feel about them or what they've done or your relationship with them, we all have them because we've been born, right? Welcome to being a person in the world with other people. Step by step. You got this. So this brings me to being alone through the holidays, right? No family, no friends. You're telling yourself this, all my friends are with their family, right? So let's get into that. Let's talk about that. Okay. Being alone through the holidays. No family. I said, obviously everybody has family, but sometimes they're not in touch with them, right? You're estranged. You don't get along, whatever. But you're not headed over to the family for the holidays, right? And also all my friends are with their families. I want to talk about this internal dialogue that I would have, and perhaps you can understand this, is where I would say, nobody understands. Nobody knows what it feels like. Nobody understands, right? Everyone is loved and I'm alone. Everyone is having the time of their lives and I'm alone. That's what I would say to myself, right? So let's talk about that. Nobody understands. Nobody knows what it feels like. Well, the thing is they do, right? Let me read what I wrote. You're not the only person without family, and you're not the only person that's estranged from their family. Somewhere, someone has experienced and is experiencing what you are experiencing. No emotion is a new discovery for humanity. Ego, right? You're not feeling an undiscovered emotion, right? You're not experiencing a situation no other human being has experienced. NASA and psychology today aren't reaching out for an interview to talk about this newly discovered feeling you are experiencing, right? Your emotions are not breaking history or rewriting human existence. They're not. Saying nobody else understands but you is egocentric and the voice of your dramatic self stirring the pot. It's also a lie because somewhere somebody does. That's just the way it goes. The machine is built as such. Think about the craziest thing, that word again, but think about the most, the wildest thing you can think about. Somebody's experienced it. They may not have posted on Instagram. You're right. But they've done it. They've experienced it, right? So saying nobody else understands is egocentric. It's a way to be melodramatic within your own misery, and going back to, I think, something I spoke earlier about, maybe not in this episode, but just making yourself the most interesting person in the room because you're miserable, right? Like a poet. It's only interesting for so long, and then people like pack it up and get out of there because it's kind of boring after a while. All right. So yeah, romanticizing being alone, right? You are interesting because you're hurt. It's not a nice thing to say, but ask yourself, is that what's happening with me? Because it was with me personally. I was like, so there was a part of me that romanticized being this person that nobody else understood. And then I had to kind of, knock on the door and say, hey, by the way, other people kind of do. You're not, again, you're not rewriting human history with your experience. Just because you haven't met them, just because you're not shaking hands and moving in next door to somebody that's had your same life history doesn't mean you're the only one that's experiencing something. Big picture. That's not true. Right? Yeah. And you're alone all the time. You watch TV, you take showers, you spend days scrolling through Instagram. Why are you not brokenhearted that people aren't inviting you to dinner on Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday? What makes the holidays any different? Because they happen rarely? Because we've designed this idea around what's supposed to happen, right? Just because they happen rarely, right? Thank goodness. They're exhausting, I think. And it's just another day, and it belongs to you. Today belongs to you. It's yours. What are you going to do with it? What do you want to do? What do you want to do, right? Think about that. Ask yourself something. If you're not with your family and you're not going on the holidays, what do you want to do? Outside of sitting by yourself and feeling, sad because you've convinced yourself you're the only one that feels this way and you're the only one suffering. It's not true. I want to talk about emotional budgeting, right? That kind of leads into that. How much time are you spending out of your emotional bank? And where are you spending it, right? How much time are you spending feeling this way? And what is the probable outcome of these thoughts, right? What do you want out of this situation? Action versus payoff. Because time spent with not much payoff, that can lead to emotional bankruptcy as far as I'm concerned. You really got to do some investigating about that. Like going back to do the math. Do the math, right? If you spend 6 hours a day thinking about these things, let's say you did that for, a month or two. Do the math. Calculate it. Is it worth it? Does it benefit you? In these rampant thoughts about stuff, what were you hoping to accomplish, and have you accomplished that by doing this process, right? Emotional budgeting. How much am I going to spend on feeling disrespected? Right? How much time am I going to spend on how other people make me feel, or what I tell myself that other people are making me feel? Right? How much time am I going to spend on feeling alone, feeling misunderstood? That was a big one, and it still is sometimes for me. Right? How much time are you going to spend on feeling feelings that make me feel unhappy? Emotional budgeting. Talk to yourself about it. Redirect, right? And if your head is spinning, you go back to physical redirection, inchworm, micro moves, micro goals, stand up, go take a shower, do something physical, because the activation of you just moving out of the position you've been sitting in for 2 hours while you're spinning in your head will make you feel different. It's biochemistry. It's the way the machine works. Use it on behalf of yourself, right? Yeah, how much am I going to spend on getting to know how I feel about myself, right? And working on the things I would like to change. How much time do I spend on building a different dialogue within myself about myself? How much time do I spend, motorcycle, how much time do I spend thinking about what I think other people's dialogue is? And how much time do I spend asking myself what my own dialogue is, even comparatively? What are you saying to yourself? Forget what they're saying. What's the skinny on how you feel? What are you thinking? Right? Who gets what and what comes of it? Do the math. Emotional budgeting. The economy of emotions and time. You don't have all the time in the world. We think we do, but you don't. You don't. TikTok. Another trick is check in with yourself, right? And do something fun. It doesn't have to be extravagant. You don't have to drop $400 on a dinner or go, to Disneyland. There's lots of fun that is free. Just go and sit at the dog park and watch the dogs play. That's fun. Get outside of your head. Go for a walk. Activate your biochemical and physical self to stop spinning in the same environment. Force yourself to do these things. And do the math. Right? So check in with yourself, right? And do something fun or something that feeds you. Have an honest discussion about what you can do to enjoy the time that you have. Right? Instead of thinking, I don't like this and I don't like that, that's fine. We can not like that. That's great. Is there anything that we kind of do like that's simple that we can do? And inchworm moves. I spoke about this in episode 1, but it's making micro moves, micro goals. You don't have to get up and do the dishes. You just have to sit up. Once you've sit up, all you have to do is stand up, right? Micro goals, because you find once you've accomplished that one micro thing, again, your blood is moving, your body is getting, chemistry is acting differently. There's blood in your muscles and it just reacts differently. So it's a way to force yourself at a micro level to start generating your chemistry inside to be doing different things step by step. So the things to think about is, are we acting on behalf of ourselves in the now, or are we reacting to hurt in our yesterdays? Just check in. Ask yourself that question and be honest. Another way to go, another trick is to just remind yourself, I am here now. And just take a second to sit and check in. Look around. See what's up. Right? I am here now. Connecting to your breath. It's something that you can use all the time, anytime, and nobody even knows what you're doing. Nobody even knows that you're getting yourself back to reset. You're just breathing. Right? Tools that you can have, emotional things that I've learned to do, that I can do in public, where I don't feel like I'm telling on myself that I'm having difficulty. Right? I'm just being a person. I'm just taking a breath. Another thing to remember is work with your environment. You know what to expect. If you know what to expect, prepare accordingly. Real simple. It's like going back to the refrigerator after you've looked in there 5 times expecting a sandwich. It's still not there. You can open it a million more times. It's still not there. No sandwich. Stop opening the fridge and expecting a different outcome. Right? If you know what to expect, work with your environment and those people in your environment and prepare accordingly and prepare for fun. And the last thing to remember, not the last thing to remember, but a big thing to remember is it's just another day. It's 24 hours. What do you want to do? Do something fun. Entertain yourself. I'm going to give you some tips on how you can feel better, but these are the things to remind yourself when the gravity of the holidays and all this pressure and oh my goodness, this hurts my feelings and I remember sadness in this. It's just another day. It too will come to a close. I tell folks on set sometimes when it's crazy, I say at some point we are going to call wrap. At some point it's a wrap. Just for the moment and period. Right? Over and out. So remember that. Remind yourself it's just another day and ask yourself, what do we want to do today? So this brings me to my next setup, which is what can we do to feel better? And feel like we are part of the holiday spirit, even if we're alone. Well, let's talk about that. What can we do to feel better and feel like we are part of the holiday spirit, even if we're alone? Things to remember. Not sure what that sound was, but it was loud. I think it's the pigeons. I have pigeons outside my window. I like them. But they're very noisy at times. They make a lot of noise, these pigeons. Okay, so things to remember. You're not alone. Stop removing yourself from the big picture of you in the world. Isolate yourself. If you're alone and you're isolating, be aware that that's what you're doing, but also understand that in your isolation, you are part of the bigger picture. When you're in bed all by yourself, expand your focus to the walls, right? And then move through the walls to the pigeons, right? Then out into the street. And then go above and see that even though you're feeling alone, you're not. You're just in your own box, right? Stop removing yourself from the big picture of you in the world. Expand your focus, like I was just talking about, like throwing a pebble in the pond, right? When you throw a pebble in the pond, be the ripple. That's what meditation is expanding your listening as far as you can. See if you can hear down the block, right? Be the ripple. Don't get stuck in the idea that nothing else exists outside of what's spinning in here, right? That's a lie. That's all chatter. It's nonsense. It's not true. It's just made up stuff. You're being held hostage, right? Be the pond, be the ripple, and imagine being able to see everyone around you in their box, living on top of you, beside you, below you, walking in the street, sitting, sleeping, fighting, loving, right? Being born and dying. See it. Fly out of yourself in your imagination and look down. Fly high. Go all the way up there in your imagination, right? And look down. What's around you, right? See it. Fly high and see all the people surrounding your home. Absorb your being one of many and not on an island alone. That's just a story you're telling yourself. That's a lie. That's a lie, baby. Right? Even though it feels like it. Do this. Do this. Go up and out in your imagination. You have an imagination and it's magical. Use it. Use it. Right? There are people everywhere, behind walls, outside the door, out the window, along the streets, in the air, in planes, in their mothers' bellies, right? Some are even in space right now. Wild. There's folks everywhere, all the time. You are not alone, even though it feels like it, right? Within a few miles of you will be a hospital filled with people suffering. Others are having babies while some are being born, right? Some are having surgery and have left their bodies to dream while surgeons fix and repair or try to save their life, right? Expand your visual. That's real. Somewhere very close to you, there's a hospital. It's the rules. City, right? Close by will also be a firehouse where people are standing by or on their way or in the middle of putting out fires, pumping hearts back to life, talking people out of hurting themselves or being the bearers of bad news, right? This is all happening simultaneously somewhere. This is absolutely happening. Every time you hear a siren, something's happening. So remind yourself you are not alone, even in your loneliness, right? You have company. Somewhere, someone feels just like you do. You don't get loneliness all by yourself. Yeah. So you are not alone, even in your loneliness. You have company. Right? And if you had an X-ray vision and could see through the walls and see how many people you are surrounded by all the time, you might find yourself aching for more solitude. Time to be with yourself, by yourself, investigating the story of you. Right? Expand your focus. Think about all the life surrounding you. Humans, plants, animals, birds, bugs, soil. There is life all around you. So you actually have a lot of partners in this dance called life, right? So dance. Okay, so let's dance, right? We have partners in crime. So this brings me to how some things we can do to make ourselves feel better about being isolated or feeling removed from the holiday experience because you've decided that it's for families and, folks like that. So one of the things you can do is give your surrounding area some love. I mean, your community is your family right outside, right? I'm just going to read this to you. Folks and places in your hood, places you visit often, like your local coffee shop, grocery store, or bodega. Who do you see often in your world? Your neighbors.
Hi, Carol.
The people right outside your door, the folks you see often, right? Consider them your family. A long, long time ago, I decided that blood family is just only one part of the pie of family. Friends are family. Your community is your family. These are people you interact with all the time. Get to know them, right? It's fun. Yeah, like I said, you don't have to design Popo. You don't have to design a life where your only idea of family are blood relations. Your family are the people and energies you interact with, the faces, places, and personalities you see and speak to when you go out into your neighborhood, right? Embrace this extension of yourself and your life and share the holidays with the people you are affected by in your everyday life, right outside your front door. Someone's in trouble. And how do I do that? Well, take a deep breath first and recognize that there's folks out there that are in it with you. Some people are working on the holidays, right? They're making money. This fantasy of everybody just living it up and drinking eggnog and yucking it up. I mean, folks are doing that, but there's a whole bunch of other people that are doing things like standing behind a counter waiting for you to buy some matches, right? So how do I do that? How do I embrace the people outside my door? Do I just start running up and hugging people? You can. Can be a little dangerous though, depending. But how do I do that? Okay, so here are some simple little things you can do that are fun, that can take up some time and be crafty, and you can use your imagination. Back to the 99-cent store or somewhere around, right, that you can buy some cheap things. Buy a pack of blank cards. Just a little pack of, usually in invitations sections or something like that, and write a happy holidays note. Even if you don't know their name, right? Write a card. Example is, happy holidays. I just wanted to say thank you for all the joy you have given me this year. I hope you have a wonderful season, and here's to a great new year, right? Just write a bunch of those cards. While you're at the 99er, buy a bag of candy and make some little candy satchels, like I mentioned in the gift basket area, right? Or some chocolate satchels, or make chocolates. They're really easy. I did that last year for my neighbors. I just made them a box of chocolates. It was so fun, and I get to eat chocolate. Write their name on a card, buy a bag of candy, make some little candy satchels, or just slip a candy into the envelope with your note, right? And get to handing them out. Go outside and start giving them to people. Right? Take joy in other people's joy in receiving this gesture from you. Smiles. The most probable outcome of doing this is being smiled at. Odds are, right? If you work out the scale, what's going to happen if I hand somebody a happy holidays card and a candy? Probably smiles. Most of the time. So get to smiling, right? And this is a cheap, fun, and easy way to feel connected to the world. Be of service, right? You don't have to believe in God or any of these ideas to be of service. When I was younger and I was fighting against that religion and all these ideas of this person that was in charge of everything, I would hear people say things like be of service, right? And I just kind of ignored it because I wasn't in the mood to listen to it then. But being of service outside of any other affiliation, just you in the world doing stuff for other people, right? It feels really good, and it reconnects you to the understanding that you're part of a picture. You're not just part of a family that you were born into, or an extension of your personal affiliations with family and friends and such. There's a whole world out there that you talk to all the time. Yeah, be of service and get a bunch of happy faces in your memories of the day, right? That way when you go home, you haven't just sat down and felt bad and sad and lonely. You've just walked out the front door and given a bunch of folks some chocolates. It's fun. Do it. Another thing to do, another thing I used to say is, my friends are with their family. They don't want to hear from me, right? They're with their family. They're doing fun stuff. They don't want to hear from me. I'm just going to sit here and feel bad. No, text everyone, send everyone you know well wishes. Everybody, right? Text happy holidays to everyone you know. Get out of your head and out of your house. Giving to others, always helps me feel less alone. And don't wait for people to reach out to you. This idea that if somebody's not sending you a happy holidays message and they just don't love you because you're not in their thoughts and they're not thinking about you and they know you don't have family, and why aren't they? Because they're busy. They're busy. They're busy, right? And don't wait for people to reach out to you. Attaching the story that if they don't reach out, they don't love you or value you in their lives, right? As I was saying, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Flip the switch. If you don't reach out, does that mean you don't love them? Reach out. Send people text messages. Happy holidays. I love you. I hope you have a great day. Because even though your friends are with their families, I'm just going to read this. I send everyone messages, everyone, because people respond. And you will receive messages intermittently reminding you that someone is indeed thinking about you in the here and now, right? And happy to hear from you, right? I also use the holidays to give me permission to do nothing if I want to, right? Eat grilled cheese and watch TV, eat what I want and relax instead of feeling left out, right? Take it as a paid vacay in the sense of an emotional vacay where everybody's off the clock. Nobody's going to bug you. There's no pressure to work. You're not going to get any emails, right? There's no pressure to go to dinners if you don't want to, or parties, or talk, or do anything, right? It's a gift. Relax. Set the string lights to switch colors, snuggle up, and be, right? And remind yourself, like the siren, there's a whole world around you. Okay. So another trick is bringing life to the holidays in your home, right? Indulge in the sparkle. Just because you're not with family, or just because you're not having a group of 20 come over to have dinner and the whole shenanigans, it's a soiree, doesn't mean you can't set up some sparkly lights for yourself, right? Sparkles are fun. The feeling of it is really calming, and it just feels nice to set an environment that's warm and comfy, right? Fill a big glass bowl with some sparkly lights. If you don't have a tree, you don't have to have a tree. And bring some light and color into your home. I actually only have a tree this year for the first time in my adult life. Not because I'm religious or I affiliate with Christmas or any of that. I just like the sparkles. I just like the colors switching back and forth, and it's so soothing to sleep to, right? I don't need gifts underneath. I don't need people. I need sparkles. That's what I need. I need sparkles. I need to be grateful. And I need to feel a part of the world. Sometimes I need peace and be someone that inspires smiles, right? Light candles. You don't need company to create a space that makes you feel warm, calm, and safe. It's facts. Hashtag facts, as the kids say. Love yourself. Have fun. My home is an extension of a tool of helping me. My environment, if it's organized, I feel better. If I light a couple of candles at night, it brings me into a soothing space. Create a soothing environment for yourself. Lighting is a big deal. A lot of people don't think about it, but lighting is a big deal. Okay, another thing you can do, cook. Cook. And you don't have to be a chef to fill your home with the smells of something yummy. You really don't. But cooking is yet another sensory tool that you can play with, right? You can be the boss of yourself and have yourself feel different ways about things by using your senses to work for you. Bring the smell of cookies into your home. Use your senses to help you feel better. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? It can be some pre-made cookie rolls, right? Just bring cookies into your world. Just put them in there, slice them up in the oven, easy breezy, read the directions, boom, 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 right? And cooking is also a way to be tactile and move your body, touch the smell of the ingredients and a home filled with cooking. If you don't like cooking, just for yourself, right? Because that's a battle. Sometimes you're like, I'd love to cook, but it's just for me. Well, I don't need to like do all this just for me. Maybe you don't. So cook extra and take your neighbors a plate. I live above a deli. I take people snacks sometimes because I like to cook. It's a great way to, like I said, to be tactile, right? One of the things about a depression is that you just become a meat sack. You just stop. You just pause. Or I do. Like, I just slow down. I just sit. And time ticks away, and it just gets away with me. And all I want to do is sleep and all that sort of stuff. The more you participate in just micro moves of moving your body and getting blood into your muscle tissue, biochemically you're changing yourself, and it's a fun way and a very controllable thing, something that you can do. You can control that. Even if it's inch by inch by inch, you just do it, right? And once you start doing it, your body responds because it's got blood in its bones and it's feeling different, and you just take a hold of that and sail with that, right? So cooking is a great way to be tactile. It's a very meditative place to be. Just chop things and smell. You get the smell of all these things. And like I said, you don't have to be a chef to just cook something, right? A note that I have is giving to others, baking cookies, holiday dinner for the homeless is another thing that I've done. I did that on Thanksgiving a little while back, where I just baked turkey and veggies and all that sort of stuff and wrapped them up into bundles, and then took a train to the city and dropped them beside sleeping folks in the street. It just makes you feel good, and you're still participating. You're not just sitting around feeling bad for yourself and forgetting that there's a whole world out there that's right with you. Some of them are a little bit more uncomfortable than you are even, right? So being of service, doing something for others gives me an injection of good vibes. Yeah. And it's not because somebody's going to be giving me applause like, oh, that's so nice of you. No, it's because I am physically moving. I am in control of my chemistry, or I'm activating my chemistry on purpose, right? Micro moves, and it just makes you feel better. It has to. I'm moving my body. I'm participating in giving to those suffering through the holidays, right? So I have a relationship with that feeling, like me. And for the most part, I'm being given gratitude and love in return. Very rarely do people want to bite your head off if you're doing something nice. Sometimes they do. Sometimes, you run into some folks that have some things going on that perhaps you can't control, right? But wishing others happy holidays is a great way to get out of your insides and participate with those on the outside. Not that there's an inside and outside. I say that just because that's the way we understand things, but there is no separation between the inside and the outside because everything's happening simultaneously, right? Oh, this is happening on the outside. No, it's happening right alongside what's happening, what you portray as the inside. But you know that energy and vibrations and all that sort of stuff, the science of chemistry, it's all connected. You can't have a feeling on the inside without the outside being affected by that. That's the way it goes, right? I'm also, when I'm doing things like that, I'm not disrespecting my time, only to punish myself more for not doing anything while I was suffering, because that's a repetitive thing for me, or it has been. Like, I'll be depressed and then I'll feel like I can't move. I don't want to move because I'm depressed, and then I get depressed because I spent the whole day not moving and not doing anything, right? Micro moves, you'll feel better even if you do little tiny things because you did something more than nothing, right? These are ways that you can trick yourself into feeling better consciously and on purpose. On purpose. So, yeah, wishing others happy holidays is a great way to get out of your insides. You don't have to settle down and have lunch with these people either, right? You're like, well, I don't really want to go out and talk to everybody. You don't have to. You're just going out and giving somebody something, saying happy holidays and going on, or you're stopping. I've had some amazing conversations with folks, homeless and otherwise, where I've just handed them something, or I've seen someone crying on a step and I've just sat down beside them, just sat with them and then listened to why, what they were doing there and how they came upon this place today here with me passing by. Be curious, investigate. You're not alone, right? So wish other people happy holidays. And you don't have to settle down and have lunch, but maybe you do. Maybe it's great. You never know the stories people have. You just go outside and wish people happy holidays step by step and see what happens. That's it. Micro moves, right? When you do this, when you give people well wishes, it lights them up. And they share some of that sparkle in return with warm wishes, usually, right? When you act as if, move your body and use your voice in a proactive way, speak instead of think, right? Get outside of your head and out of your mouth. Talk to people. And remember, I am here now, right? When you do that, the world gives you a little spiritual hug. That's the way it goes. And breathe. Breathe. Breathing sounds simple because it is, but it works. Move. Breathe. Move. Right? Check in and inchworm moves. Things to remember. All right. So next up is labels and holiday rules. Wee-hoo, what you're supposed to do. So labels and holiday rules, right? This is kind of an extension of feeling bad about the holidays, and especially if you're alone, and the internal chatter, right? So I want to talk about that. Yeah. So the holidays used to destroy me. They really did. When I was young, when I was young, like teeny tiny, from year 9 to probably my late 30s. Is that young? It's young. Don't kid yourself. They would destroy me. The moments working up to it, the times working up to it, the months coming up to it. It was just this dark cloud that was looming, and it was on its way. And it was because I didn't have any blood family that I was connected to, that I spoke to every day. Like, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, hey, none of that. So I wasn't spending time with them, right? I didn't have to pack a bag because I was going to spend the holidays at home, right? Spending time with people that love me, opening presents and feeling a part of something. My experience wasn't that. It was messy and it was difficult, and it was difficult every year, every time, all the time. So I wanted to share some insights I've tucked in my Rolodex along the way, looking to find a way to feel better about all the celebration, right? And feeling so completely removed from it. I want to try to put all that in perspective, big picture. Me in the world, not just me in my world, right? Meow. Hey, let's expand that out. So the heading says holiday designs. Pick your template. Okay. So I'm just going to read what I wrote. These holidays that we are surrounded by are designs. Depending on your religion, the country of origin, and cultural affiliations, the holidays are whatever the population in that environment decides, right? Go down this path with me. Every holiday is a made-up gesture to honor something or someone within the cultural history of that place, right? Go to another place, it all changes. It all changes. There are a lot of holidays you are unaware of, that you don't celebrate and are completely unaffected by, right? But to those that celebrate them, they're powerful, meaningful, and held in high regard, and are given a great deal of respect, right? But they're not yours, and they're completely different, and you have no idea they're even happening. All over the world, entire countries and cultures with millions and millions and millions of people are celebrating holidays all the time. And you're not only not participating in them, you don't even know of their existence, right? And yet, there are millions and millions and millions of people moved by these calendar events that don't have anything to do with you. Are you going to take on not being part of these celebrations also because millions of people do so, right? You live in a country that celebrates Christmas, right? You celebrate Mother's Day, celebrate Independence Day, Thanksgiving, Halloween, right? But these are all holidays that some other countries ignore. They don't even ignore them. They are non-existent in their life's experience, in their human history, or even in their language, right? Even if their first language is English, right? Just because you live here and people are celebrating a holiday, it doesn't have to mean anything. It's just another day, right? It can mean something, but it doesn't have to. In relationship to thinking about it in the context of it being something that perhaps you just don't care to affiliate with, right? The holidays are whatever you say they are. There's no need to fall victim to a mass holiday celebration if it just doesn't fit into your world. It's just another day, right? And that's not to disregard people's involvement or respect for certain holidays and paying tribute to somebody and so on and so forth. But just because they do, and just because lots and lots and lots of people do, doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be something that you celebrate, all the time or this year or whatever. It's just another day, right? And the idea of not being loved because you are not drinking eggnog with other people opening presents nobody was really excited about buying and bargaining with themselves on a bedtime is nonsense. It's just another day, right? Built on mythology, religion, advertising, consumerism, and an excuse not to look at emails. And it will also be over soon enough, right? I have under there, you can unsubscribe. Just unsubscribe. It's okay. Okay, so this brings me to perspective, right? A few information nuggets about the holidays in the world we live in, big picture. It says, share a story about a woman asking me how we celebrate the 4th of July. So I was born in Australia. I don't really have an accent anymore. Comes and goes, depending on how tired I am. But I was in an elevator and I was talking on the phone. And when I hung up the phone, this woman said to me, where are you from? Oh my gosh, I love your accent. And I told her that I was from Australia. She was like, that's fascinating. My goodness. And it was close to the 4th of July. And, I think I wished her a happy holidays or something. And she said, how do you guys celebrate 4th of July in Australia? What? How do you guys celebrate the 4th of July in Australia? How do you celebrate American Independence Day in Australia? We don't. It has nothing to do with us, right? So broaden your perspective, big picture, right? And how you view yourself in the world, right? Not just in your home, in your apartment, in your bed. Don't go micro, go wider. Look at yourself in the world, broaden your perspective. You are a thread in a blanket being woven with every other thread in the world. You're just part of something. You, your energy, and your time here on earth is a blip. It's a blip. And the only reason you believe anything is because essentially in the beginning, you've been designed that way, right? You are whomever and whatever you have been told to be, fundamentally. All the things you call you, all the things you think you have chosen, right? All the affiliations you have, the food you eat, the holidays you celebrate, the religion you believe in, your social views, your perspectives, your tolerances, your intolerances. All these things have been inherited from the most part, right? From the people and the places you were born from, because you have to start somewhere, right? What is your foundation? Think about this. You eat and like the food that you were brought up on. And the food you were brought up on is the food your family fed you, right? You praised the God your parents chose. You went to the school your parents chose in a town they also chose, right? You played the sports that school offered, right? You learned the subjects that school was teaching. You got the jobs that were available in that town with what you had, etc., 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 etc. wild. It's all a story. And what you know and how you feel and what you think needs attention all the time, all the time. So you don't get swept up in a tall tale of someone you are not even comfortable being, right? A story written by someone other than you. Your upbringing, what you were taught, right? Everything you are, everything you think and feel is pre-designed. It's inherited along with your make and model. Factory fresh with factory settings. You come off the lot, right? With a bunch of pre-organized stuff, right? If you were born in a different country or a different culture, you would believe in something else. Fact. That's that. Broaden your ripple, like the stone in the pond, be the ripple. Broaden your ripple and really take in that you are a blip in the world, and the only reason you believe in anything is because you've been designed that way, right? You need to check in and make sure that what you are affiliating with inside and out is really something that feeds your humanity and not carryover of a manual written about you by other people, places, and things. You don't have to co-sign on anything just because that's where you came from, or it's what you understand, or it's, you know, your familiarity and everybody in your circle is doing this, so I need to feel bad about not being a part of it. No, you don't. Not really. It's a lot of other things to think about, right? So in closing, things to remember as quick bullet points. Participate in your own joy. Participate in your own joy. Prepare accordingly, right? And act with love inwardly and outwardly. Participate in your own joy, right? Make your own fun, and remember, you are driving this machine. Don't sit in the passenger seat. You can, but we know what happens. Another thing to always remember, breathe. At any moment, reconnect to your breath. Inchworm moves, macro, micro goals, and force yourself to do them. Observe your absorption, right? Another thing to do is pull a safety cord if you need to, boy. Just don't go, or go home, right? Tap out. Take me out, coach. You put me in, but now I want to be taken out, right? Another thing to always remember is this day will indeed come to a close. They all do. Every single day comes to a close. But another tack onto that is you are not guaranteed another one. Today is going to end, but you're not guaranteed to get any more. So what are you doing? What's going on, right? Which brings me to respect your time, right? That word respect. If there's anything you need to respect, it's your time. Do the math. Figure out if these things that you're harboring, these grudges and all that stuff, and, you know, it's worth it when you do the math. The business of self, right? Emotional budgeting. How many holidays do you have left? And with whom? Right? Emotional budgeting. The war versus the payoff. TikTok. No regrets. No thank you. As little as possible. And another thing to remember, love the party of yourself that's still small and wants to play. Right? Just open the floodgates and let that person have some time. Just play. And as I've mentioned, it's just another day. So what are you going to do with it? Right? And that brings me to the end of episode 2. We did it. Or I did it. Hopefully these 2 subscribers or 3 subscribers will find some benefit in this chatter. But I want to wish you all happy holidays. If there is anything that you're curious about, or perhaps you think I might have insight in and you want to ask me, please do leave a comment in the comment section. If you dig my groove, don't forget to like and subscribe. But if you don't dig it, move on to cat vids, whatever you need to do, right? But love yourself, love those people who are around you. Do your best. and happy holidays.
When one door closes, another one opens. Be the change you want to see in the world. Shop organic. Be inclusive. Love thy neighbor. Glass is half full, and people in glass houses, well, you know the rest. Live, laugh, love, keep calm, and carry on.
Come for the buffalo fingers, stay for the furniture. 45% off with a coupon.